Now recording automatically. I have learned my lesson. So, okay, everybody, let me start the screen sharing. So maybe I will be lost from this screen. Participants, only me, nobody else. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday, December 30th, and this is our 5th meetup here in Started Center, Novi Sad. I would like to thank again Vukašin and Started Center for providing us with a place to have these events in live, not only online, but the event is again recorded and shared using the Zoom. So, few words about me for those that are here first time or first time watching these videos, recordings. My name is Dragan Spiridonov. I'm in IT almost 30 years, last 12 years in quality assurance and quality engineering, and last now 3 months having my own company. And I'm now calling myself Agentic Quality Engineer. Why, you will see during the course of these meetups. Few words about the Agentics Foundation, because this is the meetups that I'm as ambassador for Agentic Foundation, holding here in Novi Sad and trying to start Agentic Foundation chapter here in Serbia. And I'm planning to extend this to Belgrade and other cities. I'm already having some talks with Vukašin on using the other started centers for other meetups in Serbia. Few words about Agentic Foundation. That's a non-profit organization dedicated to making AI innovation and education open to everyone by supporting the development and deployment of open source agentic AI systems. And what is agentic AI? It refers to autonomous AI agents capable of independent reasoning and action. And these systems represent the next frontier in applied AI, enabling machines to make decisions, adapt to new situations, and collaborate with humans and other agents. Core values that we share and are everything that, or most of the work that we are working on is open sourced. We are education first with hands-on skill development and practical educations. We are grounded in open source values and responsible AI development, and we appreciate highly ethics while doing the development and testing of the agentic products. And we are community driven, where we are building a global network of developers, researchers, enthusiasts, doing this through the events that are held in person, online, or hybrid. You can check the website if you want to know more about the community meetups all around the world. We are constantly on the map doing meetups here in Novi Sad at least twice a month, sometimes even more. This time it will be like a third meetup in December. But maybe then we will skip one in January. So this is trying to squeeze one here. There is a number of projects that are developed by the members of Agentic Foundation. And the top project is Cloudflow Orchestration Framework. And, many others developed by Reuven Cohen, Ocean Lee, and other members of the Agentic Foundation, and my humble self that is contributing with Agentic UE Fleet and other quality engineering related projects. And what we are doing here in our meetups, we are working on showing how we can use these tools and the Spark framework developed by Agentic Foundation founder Reuven Cohen to develop and test application using the agents. For those that are here first time, we started working a couple of meetups ago on the community social network for Serbian Agentics Foundation and started club so we can share it. And during the previous couple of meetups, we started applying Spark agentic development framework. And in the meanwhile, developed specification based on our initial requirements or our product requirements document that we started with. We developed pseudocode in the second phase. Then agents, while we were looking or talking last time, finished even the architecture while we were not looking. So we are now ready to start with the phase of the implementation and refinement. That's like a fourth phase in the Spark development. And in order to start that, we need to log in into the environment. For the development environment, I'm using VS Code server instance that is started using the dev pod to start the control Docker environment in which then my agents are constrained and cannot, make too much trouble. And there is always some additional settings to add, like to forbid remove RF all or something like that, because yesterday it happened that agents deleted whole memory database in the project that I was working. Good thing I had a backup. So yeah, you need to be careful. I'm using Cloud Code inside as a CLI agent, AI assisted agent, and I'm invoking it using command that in full looks like this. So it would be like Cloud dangerous script permissions in order to call the whole command, but I added alias in my local environment, so I can call the same command using the alias DSP. You can create an alias. If you don't know how to create an alias, ask Claude. It will create an alias for you, no problem. I will invoke now Claude with the dangerous script permission flag, and I will not continue working on I can even continue working on the previous session. So give me a second. If you want to continue working on the previous session, you can invoke Claude dangerous script permissions and -c, and with this, it will continue the previous session it was working on. And now you can see what we were working on the last time in the terminal. Let me just show, or maybe let me just, make it a little bit bigger. So, we can check what were agents working on. Okay, and then I created PR, merged everything is ready. But as we finished specification, pseudocode and architecture phases, and we didn't verify the requirements from the, or the architecture and the pseudocode, I will now ask Cloud Code, and Cloud Code already has pre-installed couple of things in this environment. That is Cloudflow orchestration framework version 2747, and that is Agentic QE fleet. Oh, yeah, wrong flag. I need one more dash. In this case, newest version, I installed this before. So how to install the new version? Both are NPM packages. So in order to install Agentic QE fleet, you just need to call npm install -g Agentic QE at latest if you want to get the latest, or you can define if you want to pick the version number that you would prefer. And if you want to install Cloudflow, you just go npm install low at latest, or sometimes because there are new versions, you can even go to alpha, like to install the alpha version that is not a stable release. And after installing the new versions, you need to invoke by using the cloud flow init course. I will not do this now because it will override my cloud code and other files. And you need to initialize ake init and minus yes if you want to skip the confirmations. If you want to go into manual setup, you can skip the last switch and initialize like this. So this is like what we have in this environment. Cloud code with cloud flow orchestration and agentic QE engineering fleet. And we are now, I will ask, let me, just give me a second. I don't like typing too much, so maybe I can use this. Use QE agents to do the analysis of architecture and pseudocode and compare that to initial specification and requirements for the project. Nice. Let's see which agents it will start. Oh, because we continued on the previous session, the context was low, and now this command that I gave initiated auto-compact of cloud code context before it proceeds with the next steps. What it's really doing, it's creating like doing the compacting of the context by just listing the most important tasks it needs to remember from the previous session. Let's call it like that. While it's doing this compacting, let me show you what else are we working on, or maybe somebody has some questions. I can answer questions while we are waiting, or maybe we can even look at what it did create from the architecture and pseudocode. So I can show how some of these documents look when they are created, why this is working. So let me find, this is architecture, but I want to so for all the who was here on the previous sessions, then, we had specification written for, all the parts of the application. And now for all those goals, it defined parts of the pseudocode for authentication. We can now go in and check in. I will not do this review, but I highly recommend when you're doing this, spend some time and check what they're producing, because maybe you don't agree. Maybe you want to add something more. Maybe what the agent suggested is not fitting your context. So this is a good chance to react and do the modification before we start doing the implementation itself. So this is, for instance, for the authentication and security. Or maybe it looks, we can do the review, like Command-Shift-V on the Mac, or probably Control-Shift-V on the Windows machines. For VS Code opens this preview of the file, and it's easier to read. So this is authentication. Then, for instance, pseudocode. Let's take a look of user profiles. So how it is thinking about the user. This is this looks like a lot of our, SIFU domain-specific language, where we would define the model in the database. And this defines the model in the database at the end. What are the properties user will have, and what are the keys, indexes it will use. Media model, then user storage quota, incident, file types, profile management, and we even, providing some algorithms. Then this pseudocode was used to create the whole architecture. So maybe if I start from this, give me a second. So this is the README for the architecture. So what did it created in the end? Again, architecture for the application based on the pseudocode for all those modules that we just saw. It now did complete architecture breakdown. So let's check now how the architecture overview looks like. So it is planning to develop also the mobile app. Maybe we can ask it for the MVP to skip the mobile app version. So you only do the web app. So this is the client layer, API gateway, authentication service, and persistent service, cache, and database, Postgres database for persistence. I see that it selected AWS, and I think I somewhere looked that it uses suggesting S3 bucket or something like that. I'm thinking of changing this into using maybe Cloudflare. So if you're not satisfied with the solution it is offering, this is again a good moment to ask for the changes before starting the implementation, because when you start the implementation, it will use all the decisions from here, and you have nice user registration flow. Let me show like this, so it can be login flow, sequence diagrams. And now ER diagrams for the database with the complete setup how the data model should look in the database based on the initial pseudocode, right? And the relationship one-to-many. And what is here? I don't see the relationship here, but I would say one-to-one then probably, because it uses foreign key user ID. So it's depending on the user. Okay. And you can do the same. This is open source project. This is link to this is shared. Oh, let's check what the agents are working, or if they started working on something. Okay, it started while we were talking about the things. It compacted the context, and at this moment initialized agentic QA fleet, calling queue requirements validator. Again, the code knew that this is the agent to use to analyze the requirements, and went in batches. So it split, not to choke like the last time. It did analysis in smaller batches. So let's see. Okay, looks like some of them are looking good, and it's now producing these are the reports that are still in raw format. At the end, Cloud or agents, when they are done, they will create the whole overview of what is good and what is not good. So let's wait something more, because it's generating now the validation report. So let's wait a couple of minutes, and then we can start the agents to do the development. Any questions? And this is often happening. Yes?
If you want to implement some changes after the implementation phase, can you just do it by altering the requests?
In the initial specification, you mean like architecture? Yes, if you want to rewrite everything, depending on the magnitude of the change that you want to make. So if it's like a changing really, I don't want to use AWS for my deployment, I want to use the Cloudflare. That's like a big impact. I would go back to the architecture phase, make the changes there, and just recreate the whole application. It's much faster than asking agents to do the modification in the existing code than to adapt to that kind of magnitude of the change. If it's some minor adjustments, then it's okay. Okay, here is the validation executive summary that Agentic Fleet created. And while it's still processing and finishing there, okay, now it's done. We will read this, but I want first to give agents to start them working if we have a go. So we have a go for phase 4. And we will start. Okay. Start a swarm of specialized agents to work on the phase 4 per Spark framework using the TDD approach. Use architecture documents to guide what needs to be implemented. And then I will add the architecture, docs architecture. So it's docs architecture. So this is now, with this I'm grounding now the whole action in this folder. I could say even like a pseudocode or specification, or give it like a general folder, but that will give it too much context. Grounding is only in the architecture because architecture is already written based on the previous phases. I can ground it only in the architecture, and this will be completely enough. Oh, burst, not burst. Sorry. I didn't check. It's not burst, but per Spark. Okay, per Spark framework using TDD approach. I could even say London School, but it will know London School. And that means behavior-driven TDD, writing the tests that are testing the expected behavior, not the implementation itself. Yeah, you can always interrupt the previous action with the escape. And in that way, that's also a thing that I'm doing, because a lot of time I need to follow up what agent is doing, especially when I'm doing single changes with the code itself. You cannot track that much what agents are doing when they are started as a swarm. Now it will use the Cloud Flow swarm, and it will initialize specialized Cloud Flow agents to run this. Let me, leave you to see this, but you cannot see that much what they're doing. You can see the initial prompt. But when you're just working with the Cloud code, I'm noticing in a number of situations, that it can, start doing shortcuts, as I call them, putting like something that looks like a assert true, but it's not assert true really, but it's really, in the end, it's like that. Just to make the test pass or just to make the code implemented, but not fully integrated. That's also a thing that agents, will have a tendency to do. You can see now it is initiating 4 agents. It will start working on 3 requirements or 3 modules, and 1 backend developer is working on the project setup and database schema preparation. I could do now, with Control O, you can expand and show the initial prompts of the agents. So let me find where we started this. This was the validation. So here, but okay, we can see only 1 agent. So this is only for the backend developer. We cannot, maybe I can do the Control E. So Control O just opens part of the previous session, but Control E then opens or expands more. So let's see the prompts that were given to agents initially when it was spawning. So first TDD agent got task to implement the authentication module using the test-driven development. And here are the steps it should follow. So first write failing test, then implement to pass test, and refactor at the end. Okay? And it goes like that for each of the agents. User profiles, media module, groups, and whatever is RBAC. I don't know all the shortcuts. But each of these agents is working using the same approach where the backend developer is setting up a project by preparing the package JSON and now already knows what dependencies it will be. Sometimes these dependencies are not up to date, and that depends mostly when was the last cutoff in the model training. So you need to ask it when it's done to check for the latest versions. And let's go back now to the tasks. In the meanwhile, while we were talking, it started 5 more agents. So all of those are now working as 9 background tasks. So let me show you them. In parallel, now maybe even while in the next half an hour, we will have most of the application done. Because now all 9 modules are being developed in parallel. And okay, now we can look at those requirements, things while they're working. But oh no, those were the previous ones. This was the analysis. Okay, these are the new ones that are running. So these are the agents that are running. And you can even like enter and go inside to check what each agent is doing. But this is only providing the top of the initial prompt, so we cannot see the whole prompt. But we can see at least this one is working on the social graph model. Okay, escape, and not to interrupt completely. They are all working, nice. Active implementation in progress. And I can maybe say here, monitor agent progress. What you will see, because that was the clean, we had only 3 files or something like that. You will see just how the number of these files starts to increase as the agents are, finishing task by task and phase by phase. While they are working on this, okay, let's go and check what the agents validated. Let's see if somebody is asking. No, nobody wants to come in. Hide floating controls. And let's read now the validation done by the requirements validator from the QA fleet, comparing pseudocode with the specification for the specific modules. We are getting everything almost like a 90% ready. That's good enough. That's why we got good to go. And architecture was even better. And if we can even take a look at the module completeness matrix, which one is okay? Comments could be improved. Oh, sorry, double click. So comments are below 90%. And notification, admin security. Okay, some gaps identified. That's something that we could use in the future and let's say add the missing requirements for these parts. If we wanted to make this flawless, so this is mostly for showcase, I would go back until I get complete alignment, between everything, and I'm satisfied with the architecture, then I would say, you're good to go. But this is for, more demo purposes to show what's possible, even when you have the requirements that not are 100% in line. And maybe some are missing, because that's a good thing to see later how we are, fixing these gaps and problems that will came up later when we start building and testing the application, really. Okay. Ooh, a lot of documentation. So when I'm talking, about a lot of lines of code that you're producing, most of the things that you produce with the agents is documentation. But as you see, in the last couple of minutes, the number of files went from 15 to 30 in the meanwhile. So let's see what they're creating there. So tests. Yeah, they're first creating tests for the authentication admin group. So the modules that started working first. And then, comments, this one skipped the test. So looks like, some agents skip the test phase. But that sometimes, I forgot why. And that's, again, a good learning point. In my initial prompt that I gave here, and that was this, I forgot to ask start a swarm of specialized agents with shared memory. And I don't see that in the swarm init here, it didn't start it with the memory namespace. And that's why the agents now will probably a little bit misbehave and not follow properly the script. So, and this is probably something that I did unconsciously because I was thinking, this would be a good thing to show them somewhere today in the afternoon. I like to start the swarm, but not to ask for the memory, for the shared memory, and then to see how agents are behaving or misbehaving. So I didn't ask it here to use the shared memory, and it didn't start with the shared memory. So sometimes, even when invoking the agents, you need to be explicit enough and maybe add some redundancy. So it's sometimes, if you want to really make sure that it will follow the guidelines, repeat it at least twice in the initial prompt. So that redundancy I could do, like start a swarm of specialized agent to work on the phase 4 based on the architecture written in here, using the TDAD approach, and then I say use architecture documents from there, like a double confirmation of the things that I want to point the agents there. Okay, the tasks are still ongoing. The numbers of files are growing steadily. So any questions while we are waiting them to finish their tasks? I will show you also some other projects that other community members are working on.
What is the job? Just to create the documentation, requests, and to want the agents, or does he need to edit some code again?
Developer's task from the agentic engineering perspective is no more editing code. I didn't edit code in the last 6 months. 100% of the code is generated using different types of agents, mostly cloud code using this framework, but I'm creating some pipelines of mine. Let's see. There is a plan to completely make the agentic QA fleet independent from the cloud code. And after the holidays, or maybe even during the holidays, as I'm not officially working, maybe I will unofficially work even more on the project because already, files 67. What I already finished in the last couple of releases for the agentic QA fleet were improvements related to the independence from the vendors, meaning using complete hybrid router where you can route all the requests either to the local model, either to open router, to any model of your choice in the end, making it more cost efficient. And not only that, but you can turn on the smart model routing that will do the automatic redirection of certain requests to different types of models based on the complexity of the tasks that agent is working on. So if you have like a simple tasks, they should call, that's how it's implemented. I need to test that. They should call the model that is free, that is fast, and that can satisfy the easier complexity of the tasks. For the complex tasks, coding related specifically debugging, and those use the thinking models, either Opus 4.5, Sonnet 4.5, GLM 4.7, that's the new from ZAI. OpenAI, I think ChatGPT 5.2 now. Gemini 3 is, they're all quite good, but each of them has not only flaws, I would say advantages in some areas. My most complete model and tool, it's Claude or Claude Code with Anthropic models right now. But I'm testing with different models and I'm getting quite good results, even with the Devstral. That's new, a European model developed by Mistral, specifically intended again for the agentic development. So there is now more and more models that are specifically trained for the agentic development, and that's also in my pipeline. In the end, to create models or to use and train the small language models for each of the specific agents in the fleet, or to cover, maybe multiple agents with a single small specialized model. And I'm reusing heavily what others in community are working and creating. So this RU vector, that's also like a part of the making the whole system and the agents self-improve and learn in time. I already showed that to most of them in the previous time, but let me start my main project. This one. This database, memory database agents deleted yesterday. And I was like, oh my God, 2 months of training, and good that I created a backup a couple of days ago. This is my main project for the agentic UE fleet. And here, and now it's creating a backup before any change to the memory. Memory restored. As agents are working, let me just catch this. Now last time this was more empty because I'm started now capturing more things. As agents are doing their jobs, their experience that they are collecting, they are learning experiences that they are collecting, their patterns that they will recognize with a certain level of confidence when they're executing certain tasks. And they are dream cycles that I implemented that rerun the patterns that agents have learned in the previous period and see if they can find something that's called meta patterns. And those patterns will be then with the confidence 100, meaning that when the agent needs to do a task that can reuse that pattern, it will execute the task with 100% certainty, and that will make the agent result deterministic. And that's something that we are all right now. The biggest problem with all these agents using LLMs is the probabilistic nature of the results that when you give the same prompt multiple times to the same model, you will get different results almost every time. By implementing these mechanisms, developed, again, different modules were developed either by Ruven or other members from the Agentic Foundation. I was using those modules and implementing them as a part of my fleet in order to get agents that learn in time and depend less on the LLM calls, especially if they are working in a certain code base and in a project. And this is the project that I'm working now, I think 4 months, somewhere in August. I think I started September, October, November, yeah, 4 months. And the learning system I implemented 2 months ago. So there is, and the system was not working for a while because agents were lying. It was persisting in memory. Then it was persisting in files. And in the end, I managed after, I don't know, dozen releases and fixes to manage, to make it work and to save in the database and to pull the events from the database. It's also saving the events when the QE agents are invoked. They will save the events, and all of this is in the end making them more deterministic in the results and the things when they are working on certain tasks. Okay, going back to the let's see how many 2 tasks finished. 68. Oh no, 102. it needed to, some time for Git to realize what was changed in the last 10-15 minutes, because during the hackathon in agile testing days, I think we had an application developed in less than 2 hours. We did a pet store application. And the whole application, backend, frontend, database, test suite, and everything was finished in less than 3 hours. And when you are doing this, is this kind of application is not that big of a scope. But if you think, doing this solo development, it will probably take you 7 to 8 months. If you do it with a team of people, depending on how many senior you have in a team, 3 to 4 months, maybe 3, 2, depending on the size of the team. I would say 5 people or something like that. I know that some apps that I managed to create in less than 48 hours, that kind of application with some team that I worked, previously, it took 8 months to create. And writing the complete new test framework or something like that using these tools. Oh, a couple of them choked on the context. But okay, let's give them, they are still working. They will be, now, I think when they tried to return the results of what they were working on, that's something that started happening, I think, a week ago with some updates with the cloud code. It's having problems with the subtasks context, also compression. But yeah, because it's trying to run the sandbox environment for it and separate context for that subtasks. And it sometimes doesn't, it's not managing. And let's see if I'm correct. Okay, not that much. Now the CPU is down. It's only 200%. But you can notice when the agents are, and when multiple agents are running, usually you will see high CPU usage, not that much memory consumption, but usually a lot of CPU spikes when multiple agents are working. Okay, and the number of files is increasing. Let's see what it finished. So source, oh my God. Okay, admin, authentication, almost done. So yeah, probably will not run from the first time, the initial build when the agents finish, because they will just finish the implementation, not the integration. That's why, let's give them, I don't know if they will manage to finish in the next 15 minutes, but yeah, we can go back later. Um, New project. This is something that's, coming, I think, Ruv, yesterday or the day before. For that new database system that he created a month ago, Ruv Vector, so that's a completely new vectorized database. He created now nervous system, and that has 5 layers. And this is something that I need to start implementing probably after the new year to try to see maybe this will make agents even more smarter. But no, really, guys, I really want to test things. I'm a tester in my heart. So I'm really testing to see what's possible, because this should, what it says, uh, bio-inspired nervous system for AI applications. Think less smart algorithm and more living organism. Okay, this is a new level of things guys are doing, but this is how they're moving the frontier of what's possible. So most AI systems are assembly lines. Data goes in, predictions come out, repeat forever, and this creates this crate takes a different approach. It gives your software the same kind of layer hand that lets living creatures sense danger and react, learn, and rest when they need to. Okay. So then converts continuous data into sparse events, instant decisions, less than microsecond, stores patterns in a hyperdimensional. I don't know even these guys what this. I need first to let Ruv explain this in maybe next AI hackerspace of the white coder. So yeah, I will need to check this later. But for anybody who is interested of and to watch previous recordings, you can go to video.agentics.org and you can find all previous Agentic Foundation webcasts and AI hackerspace. And this one, I'm, say shameless self-promotion. This one I can share the link later, was really me presenting, how to use the quality engineering fleet to the whole Agentic Foundation society. And what's also a good thing, let me see if the ask works. So when you are on this, there is an agent here. Which events Dragan presented projects? Let's see if it will find the new one. Present whites. Okay. It's not correct completely. Yeah, let's see if the agent will find. Because there is integrated agent in this site. Oh, there it is. Oh, it knows. And projects presented. Nice. And this is, these are the videos. Ooh, it found now all 5 or 6 that I was talking about. So if you're interested more, not about Dragan and what I was doing, but anything related to, so how to use cloud flow for developing applications. Anything from the content in those videos, it will surface, probably will give you some answer, and then it will surface the videos that you can find, and there are even flashcards now created for you. Yeah, let's see. No, go back. I didn't want that. Sorry, guys. Wrong button. Let's try again. How to use Cloud Flow to create applications. Well, this one is, oh, there. I know that there are some flashcards. It created flashcards, but probably it needs some time to load. Maybe start. Huh? Let's see if it start. There. Installation setup. System. Commands. Swarm versus Hive. Workflow, how to set up. Development methodology. And for each of them, we have a video you can watch if you need to dive deeper on some of the topics that you're interested. So really cool trick with using these agents. And in this case, I think it's using Gemini model. That's why it created the flashcards. For some topic that really knows a lot, that it already collected a lot of content, I think it's creating like that. Okay, let's check what the agents are working on. Several more choked, but two still working. So two are still working. Number of files, it's not increasing that much anymore, but yes, let's give it a couple of more minutes, but maybe before 7 it will manage to finish. Any more questions?
How do you know in the end that the application works 100%? Do you rely on the tests that the agent created, or do you use something else?
Verification phase is just starting. So this initial build or implementation they finish now will not work. That's for sure. So there is a number of iterations. I will show if we don't manage in this meetup, I will show in the next one how I'm doing those fixing of the problems and identifying the problems. But using some of the skills in the QA fleet, like a brutally honest review skill to analyze what was really implemented compared to what agents claim they're compared. Then I use the QE fleet to analyze the code quality, code complexity, security, and whatever quality characteristics of interest at that moment. And it will provide me with details. I will ask that for both code and for tests. In the end, until you run the application, you don't know if it works. And even when you make it run, after a couple of iterations, there will be still bugs, even though you have tests. Yes. Or multiple phases of both agentic testing and manual testing. That, I'm first surfacing possible problems by using different agents before I, go into fully manual verification in the end. But, validating and verifying the agent work, that's where the most of the time goes. And the review, those cycles of, finding a problem, fixing, finding, fixing, finding, fixing. And this initial phase will get you like 80 to 90% of done. But that last 20 to or 10% in order to make your application fully integrated, connected, and working, that's that takes most of the time. Okay, one more task left. Okay, let's see, let's give it, and while that one, okay, this was the videos, this was that. Oh, this was something interesting somebody shared today with me, and I still need to play with this. I'm just getting links, guys. This looks really interesting. So this is Cloud Code Workflow Studio. Like create your workflow using building blocks like in N8N, and the agent will execute. This is something that I was just reading. So I don't know much about this, but it looks, cool. So, let's see. Start. There. It's doing something. Huh? This is the video, right? It's creating PR code review workflow with GitHub MCP integration and blah, blah, blah. So you ask it to create a workflow, it creates a workflow, and then you can execute that workflow. Okay, now I understand. So first generate a workflow and then execute with Cloud Code using that workflow. So you run then, and then it run the workflow in the Cloud Code. Okay. This is a nice way to visualize what agents are working on. Nice idea. And you can run in parallel. What? Share to Slack. Look. Pop. Shared in Slack. And they can then start the workflow from there. Okay. If somebody uses Slack at work. No? Okay, let's see. You're still not done. Come on. We need to start checking this. There is still a couple of more minutes. Maybe I can kill it. Let's see. This is doing the post feed implementation. It first hide. Check if the last agent. No. Complete choked on everything. Now the main thread is also choked. I will kill it on purpose. So I will now kill it on purpose. And because now we cannot continue in this context, in this session, I need to kill the session. So this session is lost. But what I usually do when something like this happens, I copy this where the agent's choked, start a new session. This is again Cloud dangerously skip permission. And I say, we were working on a number of tasks in the previous session, but there were some issues with the context compact. Use brutal honesty review skill to analyze what was implemented and integrated compared what agents claim finished. Let's check now. Some issues with the context. Okay, and now Shift Enter, paste this, and let's see first what it will do and how it will analyze the things. How do you know that skill is invoked? This. When you see this, like a slash and the name, and because I know the name of the skill, I created it. So here, Cloud skills, and sorry, brutally honest. There. So this is the skill. And now it's starting just, BS detection mode. I didn't ask it. I could ask it, use the deep analysis, then it will go like a level 2. And if I say do the ultra analysis, that will say extra harsh, like a level 3 brutal review. And that, really is not for the, those of faint of heart or junior developers. I think this will be too much for him. So this is my assumption because there is 108 file created and it needs now to analyze all the work. I didn't contain it to just the small parts, like a module per module, just to see if it will choke on this also. But this is me now showing you that this is something that's happening, and that when you're working with the agents, it can happen that the context compression fails for some reason. Probably they have still bugs in their system. Yeah, it would be a good idea to report them, some of these things. Cloud Code is not open source, right? No. I need to try. I also heard from Open Code as like a AI assisted CLI tool, or even standalone. I think it has also a plugin for the Visual Studio Code or something like that. I need to check that and to play a little bit with that. Maybe that would give a good idea how to make my fleet even more independent. While this is going through and collecting the information about what was implemented, any more questions? I know we are at top of the hour, but I will give it a couple of more minutes until this one finishes. Let's see how much we assumedly burned tokens in today's session while these agents were working. So if I would pay Anthropic Opus model APIs, it would cost certain amount of money. I don't know if this is true, but we can click, oh, this is a good thing. You can check number of tokens it did today. This is last 7 days. No, I don't want to last 7 days. No, this is today. 91 million token, yeah? So a lot of cache we read. Good thing there is a lot of, in cache it could reread. Yeah, that's a neat plugin. If you're interested, that's part of the dev container configuration. Let me check what's the name of this plugin. This one, Suzuki CC usage VS Code. If you want to, that's Cloud Code usage, I think, extension, if you're interested to add that one to the...
Actually, spend this money.
No, I didn't, because I'm using I have a Mac subscription. So it's using the subscription, not the API calls. But when I'm reaching the limits of the subscription, when I'm working like on 3 parallel projects, I'm reaching the limits, weekly limits, then I'm using either GLM models. You can really easy set up Cloud Code to not use the Anthropic model, but to use the ZAI GLM models. And now 4.7, latest model, I think a week ago or 10 days ago they released. That one is even better than 4.6. And some guys already, I'm getting feedback from some of those that I follow that it gave some pretty solid results, especially for some web development projects that they were working on. Let's see if the review is ongoing. It's still reading the validation. Okay. Did something in the background. Let me check. What did you do in the background? Aha, it's running the tests. It's trying to run the tests. Probably it will try also to run the build to build the application. Let's see. Yeah, no output available. Okay, let's give it some time. It's still doing the analysis. Question?
All the training, does it relate to the skills or something else? Skills have
no, that's a feature that I implemented. But you can, if you want, you can. Where is my second VS Code? Sorry. So if you download, because it's the open source project, and start the code inside the repo. So clone the repo, start the project, and ask it, explain me how the nightly learner and dream cycles work in our system. Nightly learner and dream cycles work in our system. Because that's how I called it, nightly learner. And that's it. And then watch it produce the explanation. And you can even ask it how it's implemented if you want to try it on your project. Or ask Claude Code, look how it's implemented there, and implement something that's compatible in my project. Some ideas I see. Mhm.
So I thought it was aware of the whole code base, but it is
No,
not.
no.
Is this case also here, or
Uh,
when you want to
my agents can go through the whole base, and something that I implemented 3 days ago, it's called code intelligence. I need to show you that also. So it's creating a complete map of not only project context, components, all the way to the code level, mapping modules inside the code. So creates a map of your project. In that way, enables agents to get the relevant information much faster than by just doing the raw search on the project base. So let me explain how our code intelligence system works. Make sure to explain C4 modules. Let me this. Here. So this is how the sleep cycle works. Let me just make this bigger. I will leave you to read it. If you can see, so it's a sleep-inspired autonomous learning system that enables QE agents to improve over time by processing experience during idle periods, discovering patterns, and sharing knowledge across the fleet. So it first goes and captures processes, consolidates, and then goes into that REM phase. And each phase has its own. I really implemented this dream engine by using the crate that was created by Farshid, also one of the engineers from Agentic Foundation. So the guys are creating and open sourcing things, and I'm just picking, cherry picking the things that they are producing and plugging into my fleet and making it, with superpowers. Compared to other agent frameworks that are currently available on the market. And this is in the architecture, different modes, how you can invoke them using the CLI commands, or you can ask, MCP also, I think, available because my fleet also has the MCP system. And let's go back to the code intelligence. Okay, this will now analyze the system while it's preparing that. But usually, yeah, I know what my system has, so I can ask these kind of questions, but you can go really like clone the repo and ask Claude, okay, find me what is specific in this that the other don't have, for instance. And it will surface some of the things that are probably not available in other systems of this kind. Okay. Still doing the analysis. Let's check the. Okay. This is the brutal honesty review of the things. So let's see. Oh, sorry. Let's go to the verdict by milestone. So, guys, we have a lot of things that are complete. This was stopped, and I stopped it. Mostly true. Minor exaggeration, okay? And production ready premature, of course. So fix the failing feed service test, okay? Wire up express, okay? Add integration test, add end-to-end test, run npx, increase. Okay, he didn't lie, but they declared victory slightly early. Okay, can we try to run the app? I need to kill the background task. The tests are still running. That's something that I notice. It will. Okay. Let's see. All right. Or I interrupted it now. Yeah, it's still working. Let's see if it will manage to build the app from the first shot. In less than an hour. Okay, previous sessions we created, specification, pseudocode architecture. So it's like 3 hours in total until you get a version that probably will run, but let's see. Maybe if we don't manage to run it from the first time, maybe I assume it will run the next time after a couple of iterations of fixes. Okay, no entry point, so it needs to first add. So it needs to do small fixes and then it will probably run. Okay, read whatever you need to read. Also, a thing to comment, since Opus 4.5 and Cloud Code, I need less to intervene with the things when it's working on doing some fixes. But there is still problem when it reaches that 80% of the context. Somewhere between 80 and 90% it starts forgetting things. So before that, gray notification like context getting low, like 12% message pops up. Just before that, you will notice misbehavior, forgetting all the rules that you put in the CloudMD, just focusing on the tasks that it is working. So it will forget everything else, only that task, and then it starts producing problems because it lost the context and the rules that were grounding it. Okay, use the factory functions. Create the missing app infrastructure. So something, it's missing something, but it will fix it now. Let's leave it at a couple of minutes. Okay, maybe I can stop the recording in a couple of minutes. Well, I will give it 2 more minutes until 7:15. That will be enough. The rest of the audience can, wait, what happened, until the next meetup. Okay, and while not this one, but while this one is working, okay. So, this is the code intelligent thing that we ask it. So, how it's working, I think you can see, right? So it's, reading the source files, parsing them, then doing the chunker, embedding, and creating knowledge graph out of that. So creating a completely semantic understanding of your project, documentation, and code. So it uses Web3 CTER parser, then does the chunking, embeddings, storages that creates a knowledge graph, and visualization for context diagram, who are the persons. Then you have container diagram within the system, components, and then code. And that really provides the understanding of what's happening in the system. And again, commands to visualize that if you want to see. When you just ask like use code intelligence agent and create me like a knowledge graph of my project, and that's it.
Did you modify code intelligence agents?
I created it. Yeah, I created it. Yeah, when you have the AQA fleet, just ask it, because this was also like one of my friends asked me, but your agents don't have the context of the project. They don't have it. Okay, this is how to create a grant. But couple of hours later, my agents have the project context. Yes. Yeah. So most of the projects Foundation is working are open source. And this is I will share the links. If you apply to Luma link, I'm sharing follow-ups after every meetup with the links to the repos and videos and other valuable things that you can use later to go back and double check what it was working on. And let's see if this one started. Oh, it's running the app. Oh, there are some TypeScript errors. So it will now start fixing the errors. But probably, after a couple of minutes, if I would leave it, it will fix the build and the app would work. So it's not one shot, definitely, but it gets you pretty far away in a really fast time. Stop sharing, stop recording.